This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
OPEC+Talks on 2024 oil policy ahead of a Thursday ministerial meeting were focusing on an additional oil supply cut to support the market. Although the details were yet to be agreed, sources close to the group said, Saudi Arabia, Russia and other members of OPEC+ pump around 43 million barrels per day, or over 40% of global supply. They already have supply cuts in place of about 5 million barrels of oil per day, or about 5% of global demand. Two OPEC+ sources said the group was discussing a deeper collective supply cut in the first quarter, of which the exact duration and volume was not yet clear. One of them said OPEC+ may not be able to agree on this, and it was possible the meeting could roll over existing policy.
U.S. crude oil, gasoline and distillate inventories rose last week, as refiners ramped up output despite lackluster fuel demand, the Energy Information Administration said on Wednesday. Crude inventories rose by 1.6 million barrels in the week to November 17 to 449.7 million barrels, the AIS said, compared with analysts' expectations in a Reuters poll for a 933,000 barrel drop. Crude stockpiles on the East Coast rose to 10.2 million barrels, their highest since January 2021, the data showed. Refinery crude runs rose by 518,000 barrels per day last week, while refinery utilization rates rose by 2.8 percentage points to 89.8% of total capacity.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
India aims to add 17 gigawatts of coal-based power generation capacity in the next 16 months, its fastest pace in recent years, to avert outages due to a record rise in power demand, according to government officials and documents. The expansion drive comes ahead of this week's UN Climate Summit COP28, where France and the United States are expected to clamp down on financing for coal plants, a move that India, dependent on coal for 73% of power generation, plans to oppose. The world's fastest-growing major economy has added an annual average of 5 gigawatts of coal-based electricity generation capacity over the last 5 years, but it is also ramping up renewable energy.
Cambodia has abandoned plans to build a $1.5 billion 700-megawatt MW coal-fired power project in a protected reserve along the southwestern coast and will build an 800 megawatts natural gas-fired plant instead, its energy minister told Reuters. As part of the project, Cambodia is exploring construction of a liquefied natural gas (LNG) terminal to import the super-chilled fuel and regasify it for use in the power plant, Energy Minister Ko Ratanak told Reuters. The planned LNG terminal, likely to be a fixed land-based facility, would be Cambodia's first and would make it a new import market in Southeast Asia. Vietnam and the Philippines took their first shipments this year. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. London copper prices rose on Thursday as slowing manufacturing activities in China raised hopes for more stimulus from the government and amid supply concerns from Panama. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange rose 0.6% to $8,462 per metric ton by 0239 GMT, while the most traded January copper contract on the Shanghai Futures Exchange eased 0.1% to 68,110 yuan per metric ton. Activities in the Chinese manufacturing sector, a major metal-consuming industry, contracted for a second straight month in November and at a quicker pace, suggesting more policy support measures are needed to help shore up economic growth.
India's finished steel imports from China touched a 4-year high in the first 7 months of the fiscal year that began in April, according to provisional government data reviewed by Reuters on Wednesday. China was the top exporter of finished steel to India during April to October, shipping in 1.1 million metric tons of the alloy, up 47.3% on the year. China, the world's top steel producer, exported mostly cold-rolled coil or sheets to India, followed by hot-rolled coil products, plates, and pipes, among others.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India will spend 11.8 trillion rupees, $141.63 billion, to extend its free food grains program for the next 5 years, a federal minister said on Wednesday, but the government remains confident of meeting its fiscal deficit target. The scheme is aimed at ensuring food and nutrition security for 813.5 million people, Information Minister Anurag Thakur told the media after a federal cabinet meeting. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on November 4 announced his government would extend the welfare scheme, which was due to end in December, by 5 years. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.